So has Professor Leela joined? Because within a minute, and we will be doing that. And how I'll explain to her later because we don't have much time. What I want to do is that the first speaker, Prof. Leela. Hello, Professor Tao.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, long
good
time.
Good morning, ma'am.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yes, Professor Leela is a very old friend of mine. And, you know, several times when I was in China, we were in touch. We had occasion to meet. Anyway, so what I was telling is that you are joined right on the time. I'm trying to explain is that the first speaker, who would be mainly talking about Nepal-China relations in terms of economic cooperation, particularly focused on BRI. And second speaker would be Professor Tai, who would be also talking at the same economic cooperation, mainly from Chinese perspective. Then we'll ask, because the COVID pandemic is also very, very vital in terms of cooperation. So I want to bring that also in perspective. And Professor Leela has prepared for that, Nepal-China relations in terms of COVID pandemic, you know, that is spreading in South Asia, in that context. And then we want to bring two important arena of geopolitical situations like trilateral cooperations that we're talking about. And Nepal is trying to be somebody who, a country that wants to bring both countries, you know, together for this kind of cooperation, trying to contribute in that, and therefore how possibilities. So that Rupak Sapkota would be, you know, setting light on that. And then in a larger issue of BRI and Indo-Pacific, and even the recent one after G7, that B3W, that perspective we are expecting from Professor Khadga. Okay, so that is the kind of thing. Therefore, now,
shall we start?
Yeah. Now we can start.
Very soon. He has sent us message that he's joining. So let me start. We're putting things on record.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We would like to extend a very warm welcome to each one of you at the nice global conclave from the laps of the beautiful Himalayas, where the Nepal Institute for International Cooperation and Engagement is located. The think tank was established in the month of February in the year 2016. It undertakes independent research in the field of international relations, foreign policy, security studies, and development. NICE has 4 research centers: China Studies, Neighborhood Studies, Non-Traditional Security Studies, and Security and Strategic Studies. The Institute focuses on 8 research topics: climate change and energy, global governance, sustainable development and smart cities, refugee and migration, China's Belt and Road Initiative, border and transboundary water politics, Indo-Pacific affairs, disaster management, and international economy and development. Previously, NICE has had the opportunity to host distinguished speakers from all around the globe.
It was a great pleasure inviting me to speak here at NICE.
It's a real pleasure to be able to speak with all of you.
Well, thank you anyway, and I certainly admire the work that you're doing.
I'm very happy to be with you all.
NICE Global Conclave is the flagship event of Nepal Institute for International Cooperation and Engagement. The theme of the three-day conference is Connecting Nepal to the World with the aim to bring leaders, diplomats, business leaders, and scholars from all over the globe. The objective of the conclave is to introduce Nepal to the world and at the same time update the Nepalese policymakers and experts about the fast-changing geopolitics which will help Nepal reshape its foreign policy to achieve its national goal. This is the 9th session of the conference, and to chair and moderate this session, it is a real pleasure to have with us Ambassador Dr. Mahesh Maskey. Ambassador Dr. Mahesh Maskey is a former Nepalese ambassador to China and Executive Chief of Nepal Health Public Foundation. He was a member of Advisory Council for Health Research of World Health Organization Southeast Asia region and Executive Chair to the Nepal Health Research Council. He has also served as advisor to the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Health and Population, Chair of High-Level Health Policy Advisory Committee of Ministry of Health and Population, and Chair of the South Asian Forum for Health Research. He has also been a teaching assistant in epidemiology and biostatistics, Boston University, USA. Without any further ado, I request the chair to take over.
So, thank you very much. A very good morning to all the panelists and participants of this session. I would like to thank Dr. Pramod Jaiswal also for providing me this opportunity to chair this session, this nice global conclave. Because we have a time limitation, without further ado, I want to say that the first speaker that we want to present his thought is Ambassador Leela Paudyal, who will be talking about Nepal-China relations in general, but particularly focused on Nepal-China economic cooperation and BRI. You know that our recorded history of Nepal in Nepal-China relation goes back to at least the beginning of the first millennium, and many illustrious names like Fazian, Buddha, all these Buddhist monk scholars, Xuanchang, and then Princess Brikuti and Erniku, all these illustrious names have highlighted the friendly relation between Nepal and China. And it has endured all these political ups and downs throughout this history. So earned the name is problem-free. But what is happening in recent years is that in spite of China's great progress in economic progress, Nepal doesn't seem to be able to get benefit so much as expected. And we want to really delve into this issue in this session, why and how Nepal would do that. And given the context that in 2021, it seems that the economic cooperation between Nepal and China has not progressed much, while in India, it has gone dramatically, almost 70% higher than last year's first quarter of 2020. So these are the issues which we want our speakers to concentrate on. And given the context that we have in the past 5 years, many great MOUs, agreements, treaties between Nepal and China, and visits of the presidents and prime ministers. So what is happening? Why we are not making much progress in concretizing the economic cooperation? So Ambassador Leela Paudyal is very much well placed to provide insights about it. He has been the chief secretary of the government of Nepal, and he has been secretaries of so many ministries. In his time, and it is credited, like the visit of prime ministers, the president from Nepal to China, president of China to Nepal. So he has been a part of the history of all this development between Nepal and China. Therefore, I request Ambassador Leela to put his views, and you have given about 8 minutes to present your views. Then after that, we'll have some time for clarification from the panelists. Then we'll invite the floor to ask some questions. You can put in your chat box also some of the questions that you like. We will select it if there are too many. And we'll have about 15 to 20 minutes for floor discussion response. And then the panelists will also have 3 minutes each to finally give their concluding wrap-up kind of comments. So therefore, Ambassador Leela, please.
Thank you, Ambassador Maskey. Can you hear me? It's okay? Sound
Yes,
okay?
you can.
Okay.
Maybe your sound can be a little bit, yeah.
Thank you, Ambassador Maskey. First of all, I would like to thank the NIS for creating this platform and providing me opportunity to share some of my thoughts on particularly Nepal-China relations, particularly on Belt and Road initiatives and cooperation between Nepal and China. I would like to share a screen. Can you provide me the...
So you can share it. Please go ahead.
Not working. I don't know why.
So you are co-host.
Okay,
yes,
okay, it's okay now. It's okay now.
Mm.
Can you see that screen share?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
sir.
Okay.
Okay, good. Distinguished panelists, former ambassadors, and distinguished participants, very good morning. Although the Professor Maskey has, Ambassador Maskey has mentioned that I'm going to talk about the economic cooperation, my bit more focus would be on particularly on BRI and Nepal-China cooperation. Why I am focusing on this is that all our cooperations in these days are under the framework of Belt and Road MOU we have signed between Nepal and China. And we cannot imagine of our relationship without that framework. And we have built on some of the concepts on that BRI in the succeeding years. But that the basic foundation is the Belt and Road initiatives. And I have given much more focus on that. What is BRI, and then how it evolved. These historical perspectives and the two conferences on Belt and Road international cooperation conferences held in 2017 and 2019, because that there are some confusions in Nepal. When we discuss in different platforms with the people, they try to equate the Belt and Road initiatives with the Indo-Pacific, and sometimes they simultaneously talk two topics at par. What I understand is that BRI is based on the principle of UN Charter. BRI has the statement and the several statements and documents that respects the sovereign equality of the nations and the independence of their choice or decisions, and it's the particularly the economic development perspectives it carries on, and based on UN principles that it endorsed the UN Agenda 3030, and basically it complies with the our foreign policy, that is non-aligned foreign policy. That's why we have already signed the MOU and Belt and Road initiatives. It has become an integral part of our foreign policy. Whereas the Indo-Pacific is a more a security alliance, and then Nepal government has never been a part of that, and they never intend to be a part of that Indo-Pacific. That's why equating both and discussing at par does not justify our cooperation framework and the future cooperation perspectives. That's why I have given some of the historical perspectives of BRI and its relation. When we talk about the BRI, we all know that the President Xi Jinping, when he talked in the Nazarbayev University in 2013, and also the People's Representative Councils of Indonesia in September and October of 2013, he has spoken about the Belt and Justice, spelled out about this concept, Belt and Road initiatives. During those two occasions, the key words he has mentioned, explained about the Belt and Road initiatives are the connecting East and West, and unity, mutual trust, equality, territorial integrity, security, stability, regional economic integrations, community of common destiny, infrastructures, investment bank, and political trust between the parties, right to independently choose the social systems, that honoring right to choose independently choose the social system by the different states. And he was talking about the comprehensive, cooperative and common security and equality-based dialogue on settling sovereign disputes. That's why this all about what we have been encompassing in our foreign policies. Based on these documents and based on the document issued by the Chinese government in 2015, which is the vision and action on the jointly building Belt and Road economic belt and 21st century maritime Silk Road. This is the document, first official document, which contains the principles, framework, and cooperation priorities, mechanisms, and these are the basic principles and priorities and the approaches and the strategies for cooperation under the BRI. Based on these things, and we enter into the MOU in 2017, and we agreed on this all kinds of the cooperation formalities, cooperation modalities, and the principles and objective of BRI. That's why it has become our foreign policy, one of the components of foreign policy, and all the relationship, economic, cultural, political relationship has been guided. Our relationship with China has been guided by this document. While we signed this document, we mentioned that we'll have the cooperation on policy exchanges, infrastructure connectivity, trade connectivity, financial integration, and people contact. This is what we envisioned. And then we participated in the first Belt and Road initiatives at the Deputy Prime Minister's level, and the second Belt and Road Cooperation Forum, International Cooperation Forum, held in 2019. Our President Vidya Devi Bhandari attended, and that forum reaffirmed the commitment on the UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And they talk about the promoting peace and development and human rights and mutual beneficial cooperations, honoring sovereign independence and equalities of all the nations, and purpose and principles of UN charters, and achieving a strong, sustainable, balanced, and inclusive growth for prosperous and peaceful world. These are the basic themes of that all the head of the states and government, including our head of the states, agreed in the second Belt and Road Initiative Forum. And the background of that Belt and Road initiatives that goes on the particularly the development gap on development financing. We have looked from that perspective, the gap on development financing. ADB has forecasted that Central Asian countries needs 33 billion each year until 2030 to build a transport and communication networks. And also the trade in BRI economic corridor is estimated to be working at the 30% below the potential, and the FDI is 70% below the potential. That's why this is the gap for our development. And this is World Bank study reveals that there is a potentiality of increasing trade between the between 1.7 to 6.2% of the world growth. That's why this has a huge potential gap on investment, particularly on investment, economic infrastructures, and the connectivity related matters. That's why on this background, the BRI, along with the AIIB, Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, came into the picture, and then we joined that, and then with the objective of fulfilling our development financing gap. While that facilitating the development financing gap, President Xi Jinping in the Indonesian speech has mentioned about the establishment of the Asian Infrastructure Bank. This is the additional window for the infrastructure investment, multilateral agency, multinational agency, I mean the intergovernmental agency, like that World Bank and ADB. And then World Bank, ADB, the financing and the other international organizations financing scheme and bilateral financing schemes are barely insufficient for meeting needs of the developing countries, including Nepal. That given in the study that have revealed by the different studies conducted by the institutions like ADB and World Bank. With this objective, and then 21 countries signed a MOU to establish AIIB in 24 October 2015. When the Master Maskey was in Beijing at that time, and the 140 members now, 104 members are now, and then already 127 projects are already been implemented, and few projects in Nepal also. I will later on share it with that. Why Nepal wanted to join that BRI? As I said, that there is a financing gap, and then that financing gap can be fulfilled through the new window opportunity, a window of opportunity. And Nepal is in the pivot of connecting East and West and South and North. From the ancient times, as Ambassador Maskey mentioned, that there are several luminaries that crisscross the Trans-Himalayan region, and they enriched the civilizations of both the sides, and also contributed for the well-being of the people across the Himalayas, and they contributed for the economic development. As I said, that there is a huge financial gap of Nepal, and then BRI can supplement with the AIIB can supplement for that financing as an additional financing source with more kinds of the appropriate terms and conditions that Nepal development priorities suits with. Principles and framework of cooperations of BRI matches with our foreign policy and development financing policies. As I said, that Nepal has a natural resource and cultural resource endowment. We need the investment for our prosperity to use that potentials, and we also want to try upgrade our transit facility, widen our diversify our transit facility, and reduce our international vulnerability on international trade. The BRI opens that opportunity, avenues of opportunity for Nepal. As I said, BRI fulfills that UN Charter and then UN principles and that peaceful coexistence, respective paths and modes of development chosen by different countries. There is no kinds of the imposition, and this is only this is choice of Nepal. BRI advocates the accommodating concerns and interest of involving partners, all involving partners. Talking about Nepal-China relations, there are 6 milestones. As I say that it is first milestone is 1960-61. At that time, we signed the Peace and Friendship Treaty and the Border Treaty. Had we not been able to resolve that border treaty at that time, when it goes to the public, and then sometimes it will be very difficult to revert back to the normal position and then resolve that outstanding issues of the border agreements. What happens is that when it goes to the public, and then both the parties start to make a position based on the sentiments rather than the facts and figures, and then it will be very difficult to retreat. That's why the border treaty, border issues are very sensitive issues that tactfully our leaders resolved in 1960s. That's why we talked about the Nepal-China border is a trouble-free border. And then we also controlled the Khampa, which was the Nepal's principle that Nepal will never allow any anti-Chinese activities in its soil. That is the Nepal's foreign policy. and the Khampa were using Nepali soil against China. That's why Nepal resolutely control it and then fulfill its foreign policy commitment made by our neighbors. That's why it was also a kind of the foreign policy milestone. As I said, that Nepal gained trust with China with this event, and the transport transit agreement was signed in 2015. Belt and Road Cooperative Agreement signed in 2017 is a milestone. As I said, that all cooperations with China that goes under this framework. That's why this gives a new window of opportunities and new framework for the cooperations. And our president's visit and Chinese president visit and the signing the several agreements. I'm not going to detail out on that. And then these are the two other milestones that develop Nepal-China relations. Nepal wants to develop transmission line, power line, air connectivity, telecommunication, digital technology, agriculture, so many things that Nepal want to develop through this BRI and contribute for peace and stability in the Trans-Himalayan region and improve the living conditions of the people in the region and also contribute for the regional peace and economy. Now, we have done some of the activities. Let I say that feasibility studies is going on cross-border railway, optical fiber is already completed, connectivity, Madan Bhandari University is on progress. These are some of the activities that we are having with the Belt and Road Initiative framework. And the MOU on energy cooperation, we have the two projects already been financed, Upper Trishuli and power distribution project in Karnali region. And there are some other projects in pipeline, the urban governance, urban infrastructure, Tamakoshi hydropower and Sunkoshi diversion. These are the projects in pipeline. And protocol on transit and transport has already been finalized, ready to use, and they're not yet implemented. Enhanced air connectivity is already enhanced. And then we have the 97 flights per week available right now. This has been done in 2019 after the President Xi Jinping's visit. And we have been upgrading Trans-Himalayan connectivity network through the Thare Tunnel, Kodari and Roswagadi Highway, Ring Road and Corolla Port. These are the connectivity networks related projects. We have also signed a cross-border transmission line project, but progress has not been too much. We have also signed the cross-border economic zone progress MOU that also has not been much more progress. We have a substantial cooperation on post-earthquake reconstruction from China, and they have provided almost 55 billion Nepalese rupees worth of the cooperation during the 3 years of 2016, 17, 2017, 18, and 19. And we also received a very substantial cooperation in the COVID-19 pandemic. And this has given a chance to see how that the cooperation of China is important for Nepal. The pandemic control, without having that China's support, it was not possible to come to today's stage. We've received 1.8 million doses of vaccines, the highest number of vaccines that we received from any other country till now, and the lot of other pandemic control support materials received. And also there are a lot of activities going on development cooperations, promoting tourism, investment, think tank cooperations, education and people-to-people cooperation. This has been significantly improved and enlarged, extended, widened after the signing of Belt and Road initiatives in 2017. And we have also the enhanced political level dialogue and trust. We upgraded relationships with the strategic cooperative partnership for everlasting friendship for development and prosperity. This is the investment scenario. China has the largest investors, foreign direct investment in terms of foreign direct investment Nepal receives. Also is the one of the largest development financer. This is the grant we have received, development funding we have received in last successive 3 years. In 2018-19, it was 150 million US dollar. That is almost 17-18 billion Nepalese rupees in a year. This is the trade scenario, although there is a wide gap, and then this has we have to be focused, but this is a little bit going on decline, and then we need to work on that. And from the tourism perspective, sir, then China has the highest potential for Nepal to develop our tourism industry. This is the infrastructure road network we can build up. Opportunities, talking about the opportunities, we have signed several platform agreements and then created platforms. We have a good understanding, provide better framework, guides for fostering cooperations. And China is the largest source of FDI. We can increase this further on it. And the development finances also, highest spending tourist travel abroad from China. Although last 1.5 years, the tourism industry has a great setback, but a revival of tourism, there is a great potential from inviting more Chinese tourists, so that we can revive the tourism industry and contribute our economy in terms of creating job opportunities and the reviving economy. China is the only country that has the positive growth of economy out of 16 countries having more than 1 trillion GDP in 2020. That's why this is the potentiality that China has, that potential to support other countries, including Nepal. China has the only country having experience of building railway line across the Himalayas out of top of 5,000 meters. It is very important for Nepal, the railway project that facilitates us for transit facility and also diversify our international relations, and also reduces their vulnerabilities. That's why these are basically the opportunities for Nepal. And the challenges, particularly I will focus on, and then this is my last slide. I will finish in 1 or 2 minutes time. Particularly, we have seen that there are some divergent views on political leaders. Sometimes the views are more or less similar, but that actions are divergent, or actions are not consistent, not predictable. That does not create an environment of trust. That has been that is the greatest impediment for exploring highest possible cooperations under BRI. And then we need to be clear that BRI, if it is under our principle of international cooperation, if it follows the international charters and UN principles, if it is the China's capability and willingness to support, if it is in the interest of our country's development, there is no any if and buts and hisses, or there is some kinds of the complacencies to fully cooperate and then talk with China. And if there are certain terms and conditions, as some people talk about the debt trap, and then that is completely a false kinds of the propaganda. I would say that because that Nepal's debt portfolio, more than 95% debt portfolio is more than 96% debt portfolio is outside China, from beyond China, not except China, without China. That's why if we fall in debt trap, we fall debt trap from the other sources, not from China. If there is a interest rate question, and then we can talk and negotiate with them, and then get the concessional rate, and we can be very open and frank on that particular part. And the second, that greatest impediment is sometimes that we, as I said earlier, we equate with the BRI with the Indo-Pacific. There, Indo-Pacific, we reject our foreign policy rejects that Indo-Pacific, and the BRI we accept it because it is under the UN Charter and principles. As a non-aligned country, we can adapt BRI. As a non-aligned country, we cannot adapt that Indo-Pacific. That's why these are two not things that equating. And then sometimes we equate, and then we sometimes that pushed up far that our cooperation possibilities, potentiality with China. Particularly see that in during pandemic, the vaccine, when China offered the vaccine, it took almost more than 2 months for Nepal to bring it from Beijing to Kathmandu and administer. By that time, we have the second wave. Had we been able to bring it earlier, 1.5 months earlier, and then administer, there 400,000 people would have protected.
Leela, time is off.
That's why, yeah, this is the last, and then I finished. That's why we should not be bogged down with the others created narratives. There are a lot of potentialities, and it is based on our principles and priorities and the foreign policy guidelines. That's why we can fully explore the potentiality of exploiting BRI and achieve the sustainability goal as well as the prosperity of Nepalese people, and create a win-win situation across the Trans-Himalayan region and contribute for the regional peace and prosperity as well. Thank you. Thank you. This is my last
Ambassador
slide.
Leela. Can you put the screen off and we can see each other? You know, the time was a little bit more you have taken, but you have given a very comprehensive view of Nepal-China relations, and I think it's justified. And the last slide was very, very important for me for this session that I wanted to hear, because what you have said is that if there is a debt trap, the debt trap, 96% of debt trap is outside China. The other bilateral, multilateral corporations are responsible for that. So why such a scare of debt trap? That is your question. And you have also said if the interest rate is an issue, it can be negotiated. And there has to be a political commitment for BRI projects to be effectively, executed by these two countries. So I now invite Professor Tai, who is the Professor and Director at the Institute of Bay of Bengal Studies, Shenzhen University. He is also an academic member at China Center for South Asia Studies and Research Professor of International Relations, and was the Director of the Center for Myanmar Studies at Sichuan University, and non-resident Senior Fellow of Institute of Security and Development Policy in Sweden. So he's often, many of us probably have read him. He is often quoted in Global Times newspaper, he has worked at the University of Yangon, Myanmar. He's the author of several books and research paper, and he's particularly interested in international trade in South Asia, and he has been working on that also over the period of 1986 to 1997 in charge of bidding and management of loan programs by World Bank and Asian Development Bank. So he's very much well suited to respond to Ambassador Leela Paudyal's perspectives about Nepal-China economic cooperation, particularly focused on BRI. So without losing any time, I want to invite Professor Daya, and I hope he can finish within 8 minutes, because we have only about 90 minutes of all the sessions and we need to have more interactions also. I'll remind you when 2 minutes are left. So Professor Daya, the floor is yours.
Okay, good morning and good afternoon. It depends on where you are now. So namaste, my dear Nepalese friends. So my name is Yonghong Dai from Shenzhen University. I transferred from Sichuan University at the end of 2019 to join the Institute of Chinese Overseas Studies in Shenzhen University. And there I established this Institute of Bay of Bengal Studies as my focal research area. So as per the instruction of the chair, Ambassador, you have given me a really not easy job. And I just really appreciate the previous speaker, Ambassador Leela Paudyal. He has a very good, and I should say excellent speech on this China-Nepal or Nepal-China economic cooperation for the past few years since the initiation of this BRI from the September and October of 2013. Actually, Leela Paudyal is one of the most important witnesses of this China-Nepal BRI cooperation. So my key points here is this, of course, healthy and sound ties between China and Nepal can pave the way for an economic takeoff in Nepal. But I also stress the needs for Nepal to insulate from the big power schemes and catch up with or come up with an independent economic development strategy. So when we talk about this economic strategy, we should understand what the history, what is the geographical condition, what is the population size, what is the needs of the common people in your own country. So if we go back to these few points, we can understand that Nepal is a landlocked country between two rising powers in Asia, or maybe in the future, two rising powers in the world. So many people said that this landlocked situation is a rock. But to my understanding, this is not a rock. This is not a yam. It is really a golden diamond if Nepal has chosen its very good policy and very good governance for the economic development of its country. So this is my key points. So in order to show, to prove my opinion, I should, because before this session, Ambassador Maskey, you asked me to mainly focus on what are the major reasons for this relatively slow progress of this China-BRI economic cooperation. Why? And I should say that here I have some specific data. In 2020, the bilateral trade between China and Nepal is decreased by 21%, nearly 22%. The import from China, I mean, maybe the import from China is nearly 1.7 billion. But the export from Nepal to China is only 0. I mean, I should say is 0. billion. That is a dramatic decrease. And in terms of its investment, is only 11 million US dollar, but it is still increased by 6.5%. For this total volume of this international contract, I mean, by 2020 year, even at the critical time of COVID-19 pandemic, the total volume of this international labor and the construction between China and Nepal has been increasing by more than 22%. It has reached to 1.87 billion US dollar. This is my data to show. So it's just ups and downs. Some data ups, increases, some decreases. So here I just cite my understanding of the major reasons. Of course, one of the obstacles
Hello.
for the other countries. Okay, this is number one, the most important reason. Number point out that it is a hesitation of Nepalese government to decide whether to continue to implement the joint agreements signed between the top leaders between China and Nepal over the past 5 years, particularly ever since the 2017. Because on one hand, you signed this BRI, okay, So we have signed many agreements in the area of the infrastructure and in culture and exchange, education, and also the health cooperation. Many, maybe nearly 30 agreements, bilateral agreements between these two countries. But why it has been relatively slow in implementing? I think that most of the, I think the major reason is not because of China. It is because of this hesitation of Nepalese government to decide whether to accept BRI or to accept some other foreign attractions such as the MCC, because you have so many political disputes over these MCC programs, because some Western major powers hesitation of the Nepalese government to accept BRI or MCC or some other agreement is the second reason. And the third reason is because of this unstable political situation in Nepal, right? You already have witnessed this current political situation. I really appreciate the Leela Paudyal's speech in his PPT. He has signed that the political policies is not so consistent to the needs of the common people. So I think these three reasons are the major reasons behind the relative. Of course, against this very difficult COVID-19 situation, or this difficult understanding of each other, and I think that
Professor Dai, maybe you can stop your video. That will improve the audio quality.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
Okay, and so we are very much.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
And,
You have
so
only 2 minutes left,
my
Professor Dai.
suggestion is that, yes, my suggestion is that I think that for the fast implementation of these existing bilateral agreements signed between these two countries, I think the most important thing is to focus on the economic needs of Nepalese people and to implement these BRI agreements as we two countries agree, or the top leaders and the people understand, and just to assess what are the most important for the benefits of the Nepalese people, because the three dimensions, the divisions of geographical conditions in Nepal. First one is the mountainous area, then hill area, and then the plain area. So I think this transportation or infrastructure construction is very, very important. Just like at the beginning of China in late 1980s or the late 1980s or early 1990s, China has spending its efforts to construct this infrastructure, roads, bridges, and ports, just to connect the remote areas with the modern facilities. And I think that Nepal has many advantages. As I said, this golden diamond. So long as you have good policies, good governance, and then to take the advantage of these rich natural resources in hydropower and agriculture and historical advantage between this China and India. So you can have very good and bright future, just like Switzerland and Australia. These Switzerland and Australia, they are landlocked countries, right? But they have good policies. They have good governance, very few political disputes. They just concentrate on the most advantageous industries. So my suggestion for the economic development of Nepal is that it's very clear. It's very clear. That is to have a sustainable, consistent, and reasonable good governance and good policies to cooperate with those countries who really want to help you. And you can see at this very critical moment of this COVID-19, the second wave, it is China who came to help Nepal at
Okay. Your time is up, Professor Tai.
Experience difficulties, right? Okay, so this is my last remarks. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you very much, Professor Tai. That was very illuminating. And I hope we will come back to your and Ambassador Leela's perspective when we'll have more time for floor discussion. You have mentioned about COVID situation also. And I think that has a great impact on our economic cooperation and as well as strengthening Nepal-China relations. And our next speaker I want to invite is Professor Leela, who would be talking about Nepal-China relations in the context of COVID pandemic in South Asia. So Professor Leela is a old friend of mine. I met her before I went to China as ambassador. She had come here in a visit in a delegation at that time. And she is the executive director of the Institute of South Asian Studies, Sichuan University. She has published more than 100 papers in Chinese and English around the world. She has produced dozens of consultation reports. She is in the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences and the provincial governments. Professor Li presently is editor-in-chief of annual report on the development of South Asian, the executive editor-in-chief of Southeastern Studies quarterly, member to the editorial board of the International Politics, vice chairperson of Chengdu South Asia Association for Economic Trade Cooperation. So you see, she has been a lot of academic and institutional background she has. And now I welcome Professor Leela to deliver her talk. Professor Li?
Yeah. Okay.
You have 8 minutes and you will be reminded 2 minutes before.
Good morning, Ambassador Maskey and Ambassador Paudyal, other dear colleagues. This is, okay. Today my topic is China-Nepal cooperation against the COVID-19 in the context of pandemic in South Asia. There is 4 sections characteristics of South Asia epidemic and reason impact. Maybe I will first pay attention to these suggestions. And first is character we now compared to the other of world South Asia confirm a larger number of cases and the situation is more severe. You know, there is 4 South Asia country, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Nepal, ranked 14 top of 14 in the world. And the current core rate of the mortality rate in South Asia, except Afghanistan, is better than the global average. The epidemic trade in the South Asia country is very similar. You look at it here, the most invocation and deadly double and triple mutant strain appeared in the South Asia, and the younger age of patient, these cases are reversed. The patients of the reopen up after the outbreak of the epidemic of South Asia. South Asia country have adapted multiple round of knockup. Some special placed the South Asia slums, prison, and military camps have become visible epicenter. The causes high pollution, deficit, and the larger scale population, the opening of semi-open border and the loops in border management, the public health and the medical system, the northeast right and insufficient vacations. And fourth, fifth, extreme weather made the epidemic prevention action in the South Asia worse, and the misleading of the spatial customs and habit of the South Asia countries. Fourthly, therefore, the democracy has become a system defect in the management of epidemic prevention in South Asia. What impact first bring the long-term economic dilemma, as Ambassador mentioned. Second, exacerbated poverty and inequity and intensified deposit social conflicts, and strengthen the power of military and central authoritarian and weakened their fringing democracy. Political instability and even regime changing, the national sovereignty and regional security and development issue, others economic exchanging between the China and South Asia affect the progress of the Belt and the Road initiative in South Asia, like Professor Dai mentioned, the impact on global epidemic prevalent. Now we just take the suggestions. This is a strengthen Chinese-Nepal cooperation in the fight against the epidemic, promoted joint anti-epidemic action in South Asia and lead the development of the Trans-Himalaya regions. First, we think in the impact of the epidemic in South Asia and the world is huge and long-term, but what should we do in the face of the epidemic? First is China is obligatory duty to aided the South Asia countries. When the epidemic broke out the 2020, all countries in South Asia assisted China. As we all know, until all of us are safe, none of us is safe. As the Chinese say, no, okay. Yes. And China, as the Chinese say goes, no eagle can survive under the broken nest. China borders save South Asia country, of course. Chinese aid to developing country in South Asia should be different from other of the West, they might need free assistance. Second, Nepal has a unique role in Chinese assistance to South Asia. First of all, among the 5,000 kilometer border between China and South Asia, Nepal has 1,415 kilometers of the 312 passengers from Tibet to South Asia countries. 184 are needed to Nepal. There are 15 countries in Nepal bordering Chinese Tibet. And many of the North Nepal rural areas are closer to Chinese border ports than to their own counties. Close collectivities require both sides of strengthen cooperation in the fight against the epidemic. Second, among other neighbor countries, the Sino-Indian borders are hindering political factors and exchange between China and Afghanistan. Pakistan borders are restricted by the terrain and climate. China has not yet established diplomatic relation with Bhutan, and its impact of China is less than other of Nepal. Indeed, the carried epidemic in Nepal is several, and the future retreat is even more uncontrollable. Chinese increasing in vacation assistance to Nepal will have immediately result. It will help South Asia to build confidence in the fighting against the epidemic and provide the model of other South Asia countries. Third, building the community with a shared future for whom being with the concept of symbiotic security as the cornerstone of the fighting against the epidemic. From the perspective of the origin and international interaction of the South Asia epidemic, it has brought new security challenges to South Asia and traditional defensive and offensive model that focus solely on its own security is outdated, and the symbiotic security model that emphasize security and multi-protection should be consensus. Then the Indian epidemic broke out. Chinese active assistance was rejected by India, which caused a great response among the Chinese people.
So you have only 2 minutes, Professor Lee.
Okay. Have been missed by people with ulterior motives. At the same time, the outbreak of the second wave in India also was covered by the Chinese media, especially the social media copy with demonize India. This requires all countries to promote the building of a community with a shared future for making with the more tolerant attitude. Finally, further promote regional cooperation in South Asia, use the opportunity of the epidemic to reform the global governance system to strengthen regional cooperation to fighting the epidemic. However, the cooperation among the South Asia should not be used to resist the cooperation with neighbors countries of region, including Myanmar, China, Pakistan, Iran, and other South Asian neighbor countries. Incorporate the governance of the public health system into the integrated part of the government of non-traditional security cooperation between China and South Asia, to strengthen border electronic construction and epidemic information exchange between China and the South Asia country, and move to the Trans-Himalaya region cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Leela, you have given a very important suggestion also, presenting a comprehensive picture of COVID pandemic in South Asia and Nepal-China cooperation in that context. You are also suggested that maybe Nepal can promote joint anti-epidemic effort in South Asian level. This is something quite an interesting proposition. And now I would like to invite Professor Khadga. What I'm seeing in this chat, several questions have come up after the presentation of Ambassador Leela and Professor Tai, that many have asked why there is, let me check the chat questions. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing it. Chat. Okay, let me just. So they were asking, if we have a policy about BRI, then why Nepal is not going ahead? Is there a problem from Nepal side or China side? That kind of questions are there. Is there a geopolitics involved, whether MCC is overriding sort of decisions from Nepal side to go fully towards BRI? So there are many questions which are pointing towards the geopolitical perspective of Nepal-China cooperation, particularly focused on BRI. So I invite Professor Khadga, who would be speaking, and probably in his talk, he would be answering many of these questions. He wants to talk about global power relation, regional dynamics, geopolitics, and challenges and opportunities. So, Professor Khadga, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, sir.
So you have heard the questions also. Okay, so we'll keep that in mind.
Somehow, I have noted. Good morning, namaste,
Okay.
ni hao, all distinguished speakers and valued participants. It was great to listen Ambassador Leela Paudyal and chaired by Ambassador Maskey and two of my very close senior colleagues from China, Professor Dai and Professor Leela. I don't have a very scientific like PPT presentation. I'll speak offhand, and I'll focus my talk because time is only just 8 minutes so far as I have known. So I will speak.
8 minutes.
Yeah, is that 8 minutes, sir? Okay.
Yeah, 8 minutes only. I'll remind you when do you have 2 minutes
Yeah,
left.
sure. Okay? Because we teachers can speak hours, so that sometimes you have to be very careful to warn us.
All right.
So, I just want to start from a recent, a couple of days ago, when G7 has in the United Kingdom post Biden come back in the UN Oval Office. I have heard from Ambassador Leela and Professor Dai and somehow Professor Leela also, what is a BRI and why it does need it for Nepal. So there is no doubt, I will come up later, the rationale of BRI for Nepal. So I would just glance the global power relation, which has somewhat seems like changing, not that much visibly coming up. After Biden administration took over in DC, and Biden has three major strategy with China. One is cooperation, and then competition and confrontation. We were so much jubilant when Trump was almost beating bidding off from Oval Office, that there will be a kind of like paradigm shift in global power relation. And what we used to say the Cold War, new Cold War would not be happen once liberal Biden will take over in Oval Office. However, after Biden took over, he has, and his national security advisor, his foreign policy core team has quite often, even Secretary of State, quite often like a spoke that cooperation, competition, and confrontation. These are the three major strategies for China. So that to implement that said policy of the Biden administration, they started to like, you know, in G7, they came up, Biden came up with a B3W, and then again, transatlantic come back, because in during the Trump administration, TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership was scrapped, and so that Japan was disenchanted with Trump, and there was a tax hike to Canada and many other earlier allies of the United States of America during the Trump administration, that they were disenchanted with Washington, which was rolled back by Biden through that fundamental three basic strategy to confront it with China. And it seems like that, unlike more cooperation in surface, Biden administration strategician has come up with more competition and confrontation policies on hand. So which has been reflected recently. You can see that P3 is one of the greatest strategy which Biden came up, though there was an Indo-Pacific, whereas Indo-Pacific strategy was not that much kind of like concrete competition formula in before BRI, because BRI was quite larger in visible volume, unlike IPS, and IPS was a kind of like strategic plan that seems like not bringing really concrete agenda with the developing country in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, which so far badly needed infrastructure improvement. So that didn't bring any concrete agenda by IPS. It was seems like abstract idea by American then administration. Of course, it was brought out during the Obama's with the help of Japanese then Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. So at the moment when America came up with this three strategy and B3 at the moment, couple of days ago in G7 conference, Biden declared, and again, the last few days when America banned China produce solar. So that was another like, you know, a very Chinese production solar, especially solar energy, has become one of the soft power of China at the moment. So that has been banned by Washington a couple of days ago. So it has come up, it has started. There was a trade war during the Trump administration, but at the moment, new strategies are coming up to compete and confront with China in Africa with $100 billion B3, and in Europe, of course, many European countries are already closer to China. Even United Kingdom was very, very close to BRI, and then she was almost joined to Asian Infrastructure Development Bank. At that outset, America is coming up aggressively for transatlantic partnership, B3, W, and then confrontation with China and Africa, of course, in Latin America and Asia. However, so that has like, you know, is one scenario at the moment. And let's see, when in 2013, when BRI was conceived and started to implement by President Xi Jinping, probably there was kind of like a vacuum power in the global arena. So America was somehow declining economically, so that China could like really must like become influential in Africa, especially in Latin America and Asia, and even Europe also. China has become quite popular during the pandemic. Even Spain, Italy, and those countries got like medical diplomacy, medical supplies from China during the pandemic. So in that context, America is coming up very aggressively, and that has somehow, there were some questions come up in the screen in chat box, B3W. B3W is a offspring of probably IPS. It seems like, but even American scholar, in last couple of days, I have gone through the article by Jeffrey Sachs, who is a Harvard professor, and again another like scholars of former Harvard professors. They both of them, of course, they are liberal, they are Democrat. They are criticizing B3W, whether it achieved to counter China globally, especially targeting against BRI. There was the questions coming up from Washington DC. Joseph Nye and Jeffrey Sachs, like renowned professor, they are raising the question. And even in the meantime, a couple of days ago, Francis Fukuyama wrote why pandemic has brought up like new resolution, new discourses, that why West has almost failed in like, medical diplomacy or vaccine diplomacy, why they are still favoring the rich people, rich club, unlike in Africa and Latin America. So that has another questions coming up. So amid this global like power relation, in our context, geopolitics and regional regional, like, our relations with India and regional like parameters has made somehow a bit kind of like late to implement BRI in the context of global power relation. MCC, Professor Dai was spell out MCC, probably why we are not much achieving result in BRI, since which I have signed in 2017.
Left, Professor Casey.
2017. Because one reason probably it's not MCC probably. However, I don't have any negative comments towards our friend, all-weather friendly country China. However, our political masters back in home, they're really much like, skeptical. I'm really much skeptical. They are speaking one with another way, and they are not committed. And in the meantime, even in the bureaucracy and political leadership of this country, probably not much fun of having implemented BRI. On the one hand, there was an investment summit in Kathmandu, and BRI General Secretary was there, AIIB Vice President was there. We even could not get a chance to speak in the investment summit. Who hosted that summit? Bureaucrats. Investment board. An investment board, why? Like, we anticipated quite much of like investment from China through BRI and AIIB. We are the founder member of AIIB. But if we downlook or downplay, underestimate those partners, probably they might be disenchanted with our behaviors towards them. So for me, because of time constraint, what I would like to say that we badly need infrastructure improvement. We badly need more connectivity with the North. We have to implement the 2016 Trade and Transit Agreement with China, because we want to downsize our asymmetric dependency, and we want to diversify our foreign policy. We want to make more leverages for our national security. There is no way to get engaged more with China. So that we should be more proactive, unlike China, because China is a global power. She has more priorities and orientation of course, with Nepal also, but she has more competition, more confrontation with all the global powers and regional powers, so that she doesn't have much time to focus on Nepal, so that we should be more proactive. And so far as the debt trap is concerned, probably so far we have not taken that much money from China. We will sign in any agreement, mega project, we will consider whether that mega project will endanger our national security or will be in debt trap or not, we'll consider very seriously. Otherwise, so far we are not in debt trap, and we are not planning to have in debt trap. This is only like, you know, kind of like new rumors created by some global powers, so that for us, more engagement with China is needed. And that means that we don't want to engage with all the global powers. We will balance, however, we do need more neighborhood like relationship first. Thank you very much. I'll be more than happy to answer questions.
Sure. Professor Casey, you were very candid, very frank, open, as an academic should. And I think that will bring a lot of discussion when time permitting. I hope many of these questions related to geopolitical issues have been answered in your talk. And there were another comment in which they were talking about why can't we have trilateral cooperation? So it's specifically geared towards, Nepal, China, India cooperation, which is called INC. And therefore, in that perspective, we have another speaker, another panelist, Dr. Rupak Sapkota. Rupak Sapkota would be speaking mainly focusing on on this trilateral cooperation between India, China, and Nepal. And he is the Deputy Executive Director of Institute of Foreign Affairs. He is also the adjunct faculty in the Department of International Relations and Diplomacy at Tribhuvan University. Dr. Sapkota received his PhD International Relations from the Rampant University, and he has been performing as emerging expert on global affairs. So his research focuses on geopolitics. So it's a good topic for him. So Mr. Rupak Sapkota, I invite you to speak, particularly focusing on trilateral cooperation if possible.
Thank you, Ambassador Maskey. Thank you, Dr. Pramod, for this novel initiative to bring lots of scholars, academicians, policymakers, and leaders from all over the world in one platform. Thank you for all the participants, those who are listening us. And I would like to pleasure to speak with the distinguished panelists, compromise ambassadors, scholars from different spectrums. As Ambassador Maskey mentioned, I will focus on the topic of Nepal, China, India, trilateral relation with the geopolitical aspect from regional to global geopolitical changes. Initially, Nepal, China, India, they share their geography, they share their history, they share their culture, are bonded in one geopolitical setting, which is seems very complex from the history to present. And another, the idea of trilateral cooperation, if we see from the historical perspective, we can see trilateralism in among these three countries in history also. But the concept of trilateral cooperation is about a very new idea or a wasteful thinking from Nepali politicians or political spectrum about 1 decade ago, but we can see there are lots of problem or less tangible progress in trilateral relation between Nepal, China, and India. It doesn't surprise us that the trilateral cooperation among these 3 countries has less progress. I think it has lots of factoring. So in today's conversation, I would like to highlight some of the factoring perspective or the factoring elements that in trilateral relation. First, if we see from the power politics or the nature of international system, I think the trilateral relation is a very complex and fundamentally a very directive relations between the countries. So when we talk about the bilateral and multilateral approach in international relation, so trilateral mechanism would bridge the gap between the bilateralism and multilateralism for the country, like those who are in strategic relations, because the concept is was once popular in the era of Cold War. Especially there was a strategic relations between Soviet bloc, United States, America, and China also, some in the part of India also. So when we come up with this idea, there has been diverse perspective on trilateralism among these countries. China and Nepal share somehow a similar line on the trilateral cooperation and see some aspect on to cooperate and trilateral cooperation framework. But India remains reluctant and feel uneasy on working on trilateral cooperation among these countries, because when we see from the power perspective, the relationship between big and small power, Nepal as a small medium power, and China and India as a big power, and they are about to become a established power, not a rising power. They are already established power according to the new geopolitical understanding. China already becomes an established power in world politics as the great powers. They are posing China as a systematic challenge. So it carries lots of difficulties on bringing out the new concept of trilateral cooperation in the region. We can coin or say that Nepal, China, India relation as a quasi-strategic triangular. It doesn't quite similar with the strategic triangular among the great powers. So there is this is obviously a very new concept to cooperate among these 3 countries. But when we see from the relation of power politics, of a global politics, there has lots of factoring on CI and trilateralism. Especially global politics is undergoing a massive substitute and rapid change recently. The key concern of the movement is profound transformation in the structure of international world order led by the competition between China and India in recent development in geopolitical sphere has induced powerful nations to develop a whole set of military and strategic structure and mode of cooperation. I think some of the part that Professor Dr. Khadga also mentioned about this strategic structure and the mode of the cooperation in international politics, in global politics, has some sort of influence in regional politics. And some regional politics also has impact in regional politics, we can see the recent incident in Galvan Valley, because the geopolitical flashpoint, in the latest decade, we can see the geopolitical flashpoint are shifting towards Himalayan region, shifting towards Indo-Pacific region, shifting towards South Asia. So the regional geopolitics has become more complex, more fragile. According to the Galvan incident, we can see that China-India relation will largely impact on South Asian geopolitics, including Nepal and the trilateral relation among these countries. So China-India relations, they are moving or getting back again towards zero-sum game. So when we see the zero-sum game, the initial idea was in the Cold War period. So zero-sum game and this new structure, there is new structure, but in an old form, like just mentioned by Professor Khadga also, Cold War, NATO as a structure, we can define as a old structure that was largely to tackle with the Cold War geopolitics from great powers, especially led by United States. So it's a rework of all the structure, strategic structure, and the mode of cooperation that just mentioned the counter initiative by G7 countries as a B3W plan. So it has created complexity, more conundrum for the countries like Nepal in the region, in Indo-Pacific region, in Himalayan region, in South Asian region. So this will create in global politics, I think countries' world order is evolving towards self-less world order, not a rule-based or not America-led world order. It's evolving towards self-less world order. So nobody knows who will control or who will lead or how they compromise or how they initiate the different kind of global architect, or whether they will strengthen United Nations or whether they will try to form new kind of architect, global architect, or in regional level also. China-India relation, in China, India and US strategic ties in last 2 or 3 years, we can see that there is very hard to find a regional architect also, regional order also getting more fragile and more uncertainty. So I think this will impact on the bilateral relation of Nepal, trilateral relation of among these countries, and in multilateral frontier also. So in near future, I think the power politics of international relation is moving towards a confrontation. So
you have only 2 minutes left.
The confrontation will create more chaos in international relation, international politics, and in regional aspect also. We can see there was a good sign on Wuhan summit or Chennai Connect to make a different kind of cooperation architect in regional level also. China floated idea of China-India plus cooperation idea that facilitated these 3 countries to evolve towards trilateral relation. But Nepal sees as a undermine its role and its position in plus cooperation, China-India plus cooperation idea. So trilateralism cooperation is fading out in South Asia at this moment. So we need to see this from regional level. When we see it from the regional level, so bilateral relation also just mention about the ambassador Leela Paudyal, and even to two scholars from China, Professors Dai and Professor Li Tao. There are frustration and the relation between Nepal and China. Lots of frustration because China says that Nepal is less enthusiastic to work with China, and India and Nepal relation is also getting lots of frustration. There has been lots of friction, lots of conflictual situation that from boundary issue to the political level also. So we can see the frustration in Nepal relation with China also, Nepal relation with India also. It seems quite pessimistic, but I think Nepal, in terms of geopolitical situation, we are in the very tough situation in geopolitical tussle among the great powers in contemporary world politics. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rupak. You have the very delicate subject, and because Nepal's foreign policy is friendship with all and enmity with none, but they still have a lot of difficulties in executing that kind of policy, especially with our two neighbors. The recent statement from the former 5 Prime Minister is also indicating, a little bit about some interference from our neighbors, which is worrisome for observers of international relations like us. So in this context, I think you have dealt very much the spirit of the trilateral cooperation that Nepal tries to, in spite of all the odds and difficulties, how our two great neighbors can cooperate with one another, and all three can combine, their resources and their efforts, their positive points together to build a better world. This is something we have to think in future. And I have been strict with time because I wanted, some of the very distinguished people are here. We wanted to have some comments from them also. I'm very happy that about 114 people are participating directly here, and probably many more from Facebook Live and others. And it's very important topics that is being discussed. Most of the questions that I saw has already been answered by the speakers sequentially, and different speakers have taken those points. There is one point which has not been dealt with. I think somebody has asked, what is the Chinese viewpoint of Quad diplomacy? So if Professor Tai wants to respond to that, I'll give him time. And but before that, I want to, I see Professor Jairaj Acharya here among the participants. If you are there, do you want to make a very short comment or some questions you have? That would be encouraging to the panelists. Professor Jairaj Acharya, are you there? Okay, he may not be there. Dr. Vishnu Priti also is saying he's the chair of the Policy Research Institute of Nepal, the very high level institute. So if you want to make some comment, you're also in, very short question or comment if you have, Professor Vishnu.
Thank you, Master. First of all, I would like to really express sincere gratitude to Leela sir, Rupak ji, and Khadga sir, and all other speakers. This issue was so important for us from the policy perspective as well, and quite enriching debate. The most important and most challenging is mainly looking to the balance between these 3 complicated countries, and this trilateralism Rupak ji brought word itself is quite interesting. It carries very huge loaded power dynamic notion, but in practice, in application, how realistic and possible it will be, and what sort of preparation and what sort of openness for the collaboration each country has to look. If someone among the speakers highlight on that, what are the preconditions to have the trilateral cooperation in a more positive, fruitful way? It will be quite useful for all of us to know. Thank you, sir, for giving me the chance.
Thank you very much, Professor Vishnu Preti, for your comments. Now, may I go to Professor Tai, because I said if you do want to say anything about Quad diplomacy,
Okay.
whether it is its influence, its impact, its relation, whatever. Very short comment if you have, because this was the question somebody has raised.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Chair. So my understanding to Quad will be based on one international principle of peace and development, because peace and development are the two fundamental human goals of any country or any human, because right after the Second World War, we have this international system based on the UN Charter and the UN international system. Okay, so if we are talking about this Quad, in particularly in this context of US and China confrontation, or a kind of game between these two giants, the major powers. I'm sometimes, as a scholar, I feel very puzzled to think that when one country's national strategy or develop or policy is trying to contain or weaken another country, instead of developing itself for better future of that country or better future of the
Some problem with your internet, it seems. Maybe you can
the word
the video and just audio only.
Or some major Western powers to develop for better benefits of your people. But when it comes to this Indo-Pacific strategy, we find that it mainly focus on this the so-called Chinese threat is increasing. The increases in Indo-Pacific Ocean and the increasing
So sorry, seems you have some problem with the internet. We'll come back to you later. In order to save time, because we wrap up it in 10 minutes. Therefore, I see Professor Jairaj Acharya again. You know, if you have any very quick comments or questions, please, you know, we want to hear your perspectives.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, can it be a little bit louder?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, it's better now.
Yeah, I just came to listen rather than make any statements. It's very interesting and very useful and important series of discussions that you're having. On trilateral cooperation, I would like to just say that the late Professor Yadunath Khanal, who was also ambassador to China, India, and America, and our foreign secretary twice, he was not just a diplomat, he was a scholar. He said, Nepal-China relations, Nepal-India relations, and India-China relations are three separate, independent, relations. They have their own logic of development. Remembering that, I see no immediate possibility on trilateral cooperation between China, Nepal, and India. So what we should try to do is deal with our immediate neighbors practically bilaterally. Our relations with China are different and they have their own logic. Our relations with India have their own logic. One cannot be a substitute for another. No matter how important Nepal's relations with China are or China's relations with Nepal are, they cannot be substitute to China-India relations. They are huge countries, they have huge issues. We cannot be part or embroiled in those issues. We have to develop our relations independently for the benefits of the people, which, as Professor Dai said, are peace and development. Those are our priorities. That's all my comment.
Thank you very much for your comment.
Hello, Mr. Ambassador Maskey. May I just go back because something wrong with my internet.
Yeah. So please complete it very,
Yeah, I will just
really 1 minute maybe. Yeah.
Yes, for this Quad dialogue, I think if it is only for the purpose of trade and investment or for peace and development, it is okay. But if this Quad dialogue's main purpose is to discuss how to contain a rising power, think individually or jointly, it is not the way to be a well-mannered country, or it's not the way as they call this based on the international based rule-based international country, because peace and development are under the UN Charter and the UN system. So a BRI is nothing to do with this. Just to think a way to weaken another country. We just find the ways to strengthen the neighbors and also the individual. We are nothing to do. This is the difference.
Yeah. Okay.
The biggest difference is how to contain China. So this is my key point.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Actually, just
thank you.
I was trying to Professor Jairaj Acharya also. You talked about these trilateral corporations, and we are observing that. I mean, China and India has a lot of problem, recently, but their economic cooperation, they are also very strong. I mean, 70% increase in the first quarter of 2021, an increase of $27 billion, aiding, in 2020, it was about $60 billion, and down from $95 billion or something like that, because it was a COVID problem. Now in the first quarter, it has raised by 27, making it $87. So they are doing it in spite of their political, difficulties or whatever. So why can't Nepal do that? This is something, with being a very friendly country, we're still by, and this is something we have to be very, very, I think, serious in thinking about. And now I want to give this time 2 minutes each to all the speakers, panelists, to respond to anything they want to say. And they might have gone through the chat questions also. So if most of the questions have been answered, but if you want to highlight some issues, please, because we have to finish it at least 5 minutes before before 12, I think. Sorry, it's 9, before 11. So therefore, I request you to be very short, maybe 1 minute each, or 2 minutes at the most. if anybody do not want to speak, that's fine also, the panelists. If you have very important burning issues, please. Yeah. Your hand is in a Professor Khadga Kesi. I forgot to introduce also, I apologize, but he is a very distinguished person, academic,
No worry.
member of many.
I will take advantage of that.
So I don't have much time to introduce you,
myself.
But please.
Thank you, sir.
All right,
Thank
please, you may go first,
Okay, sir. Thank you.
About 1.5 minutes, please. You want to say anything?
I have seen I have seen one question by Vijay Jaiswal, who is a faculty at Kathmandu University earlier, US-China rivalry. And I just wanted to make one very simple comment on Quad and China's response and trilateralism, and even our chair, Ambassador Maskey, spell out our 5 former prime minister's statement. I will make like these comments on these 5 questions. One, well, so far as the China's response to Quad, yesterday I have gone through one Chinese official's statement. What he said, China's response to Biden administration will be, don't look for a fight. Don't look for a fight. Don't be afraid for a fight. And find when necessary, fight when necessary. These are the 3 answers by Chinese state establishment towards Quad. This is my, it's not my standpoint, this is a Chinese standpoint. And the second one is trilateralism. Some of our political leaders quite often be very much romantic. They used to say, I don't want to take name, they have been saying that trilateralism and Nepal will the freeze. This is a very utopia. I have been using the term utopia. So they do have their priority. They do have their own national interest. China and India, the emerging, China is an emerging global power. India is an emerging regional, of course, regional power and emerging major power. They have their one interest, priority, and orientation, and of course in Nepal as well. So Nepal cannot breeze them, never ever. Don't make fool. Yeah, some of our leaders try to fool us, but I don't think that trilateralism is possible. And as Joyra sir has spelled out, we do have one priority, orientation, and national interest. We have to keep our relation with China as per our national interest, and India as per our national interest, unlike trilateralism. The next one is so far as our former friends. Yeah, 1 minute, one second, sir. Our politicians are really much fond of stunt. Our political culture of leadership are absence of responsibility, sense of responsibility. They do make haphazard statement. What they did during their prime ministership, we are not that much poor in political knowledge and civic literacy. We have our all records, what they did during their tenure, and now they are making statement. Every political leaders of this country are really much absence of sense of responsibility.
Thank you very much.
Any leaders,
your point
most
well
of them are similar. Professor.
Okay, thank you very much. Now I request Ambassador Leela Mani to say 1.5 minutes, please. Any burning things.
Thank you. I'm
sorry about that, but
yeah, thank you, Professor Maskey. I'm delighted to listen to all the distinguished panelists, and thank you very much for your all presentation and also giving references of my presentation. I've taken a lot of time earlier, that's why I will try to be as more brief as possible, but there are a lot of questions for me only directly asked. That's why I have to address them as also be fair on that. Particularly, I request the chair to be fair. Surendra Raval has talked about the debt trap and then given example of Pakistan.
Many of the questions have been answered, Leela Mani, so only those which has not been answered, maybe you
I think that the debt trap, I just to give him a very short brief that we had a 388 billion debt in 2072-73, 5 years back, and now it is 806 billion. And during 5 years' time, we have increased our debt by 500 billion rupees. We have taken loan, not from China, maybe from other sources, and the interest rate is 2.6%. If China provides the 2.6% interest rate loan for the project, without having a lot of the policy and interventions, what's wrong with that? And you have given example of Sri Lanka. Sri Lankan ambassador has given an interview in last February 25 in Naya Patrika. The Himali Arun, she's Himali Arun, just arrived and then given the interview, and then she says in Nepali that Sri Lanka ma Chinia ऋण पासो काल्पनिक कथा हो, यो सत्य होइन. I have talked with Sri Lankan ambassador in Beijing also when the debt trap, and he says that no, this is the Western narratives, and the facts and figure doesn't comply with that. And then for us, the Chinese loan is about 3.24% of total loan, 50% from IDA, 35% from ADB, and the 3%, 4%, 4.5% from Japan, and from India and China 3% both. What's the question of debt trap? If we borrow money without recklessly, that we have done in the past also, and that is a very poor situation. That may lead us towards the debt trap. Professor Vishnu Apriti has also mentioned about the how the BRI, like big project, would be risky for us. No? The BRI is not a project, sir. This is a framework agreement, cooperation. If you select the project, go for the negotiation with Chinese. If the terms and conditions are okay, and then we can accept. If terms and conditions are not okay, we can say no. That's why there is no question of falling in debt trap. Without entering into the negotiation, without selecting the project, without going through, and then we are just bogging down on the Western narratives of the debt trap, without seeing the facts and figures and our debt portfolio. That's why if there are terms and conditions are not suitable, as just Casey mentioned that if we negotiate with the project, we definitely dealt with that. And if we take money and then you don't use properly, that definitely we fall in debt from any source, not from China. One question I would like to just say with Mr. Agrawal, Arun Agrawal has mentioned that China looks like a savior in the pandemic, and then there is it looks like that democracy is a problem. If there is no democracy, we can. No, that is not completely wrong. At this time, India was also suffered by the pandemic. That's why they have not been able to sufficiently support the country, neighboring countries. And there is only China who has the capability and willingness to support and the capable. That's why we have to depend on China. And there is nothing lose if they provide support for the during such a pandemic. And then we should not take the relationship with Jaya Raj Acharya has clearly mentioned that we have to pursue our policy with China, and that if our policy is not intended to against India, and then we have to talk with India that, oh, we are developing relationship with China, not against with India. That's why there should not be objection from your side. And then we develop a relationship with India. China should not object on that unless and until it is directed to China. If directed against each other, that is dangerous. We cannot handle.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you very much. You have made your points. And now Rupak has, Dr. Rupak has raised his hands. So you have also 1.5 minutes. We have to finish it. Please.
Thank you, sir. I just want to respond to the queries and trilateral relations among the countries. There is no doubt that the bilateral relation is initial, primary and conventional way of engaging between the countries. There is no debate. But if we see around the world, around the globe, that lots of countries, they try to find different mode of cooperation to enhance their relation. So Nepal as a country between these two giants, I think seems like in today's time, it seems trilateral relation, trilateral cooperation. Trilateral relation is existing from the historical period because we are in the same geography and we had lots of engagement. But the cooperation, I think, it takes time and we need to pursue it as a country like Nepal, small, medium power. In recent also, we can see India has proposed, India is reluctant in the SAARC forum. India tried to synchronize between SAARC and BIMSTEC as a regional architect. It also doesn't work. China has also same opinion to work together with the South Asian country, and the power balance in South Asia has overwhelmingly shifting from Doklam to Galvan Valley. So there are lots of engagement from China to South Asia. So I think as a South Asian country, as a small medium country, need to put a multilateral forum or regional forum to bring together China and India.
Thank you.
Both immediate neighbors are crucial for Nepal's economic development. So I think it will enhance the regional development also. So Nepal need to carry on, whether it is possible in present or not. But in future, I think there will be one day that we three countries can work in one collaborative framework. That would.
Thank you, Dr. Rupak. Your
thank you
point.
For listening, and thank you. For
I think I also agree with you. When there can be multilateral cooperation, why cannot there be trilateral cooperation? So Professor Leela, do you want to say anything, or you just okay? Because we don't have much time. We have to finish it. It's already 11. Do you want to say any, half a second? Sorry, half a minute?
Yeah, I just one word.
Anything you want to say?
Or system is perfect. Perfect. The pandemic is a global crisis, and just as I mentioned, until all of us are safe, none of us is safe. It needs all countries to cooperation and fighting against it together, including China. No country can claim to be a savers. Thanks. Okay.
Thank you very much. We're right on time. So the chair doesn't have anything to say because I already interacted so much. Only thing left to me is to thank all the panelists and the participants for a wonderful session of interaction and very candid, outspoken, frank opinions that you have expressed. I hope this kind of interaction and sharing of views will help us to, in future, to devise our activities and planning so that we can take the advantage mutually both from China and Nepal. So mutual development so that our people can have a better life future. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Distinguished chair, speakers, ladies and gentlemen, as we have come to the end of this session, we would like to express a sincere gratitude and thanks to the chair for agreeing to chair and moderate the session today. Our sincere thanks also goes to all the speakers for being a part of the event and delivering such comprehensive and convincing presentations. We would like to acknowledge our gratitude to our friends from the diplomatic community, experts, academia, media, and different organizations. Finally, we must also mention our deep sense of appreciation for the audience who participated in the webinar and those who are watching us live. Thank you for your valuable time and attention and for making this session productive with your questions. Once again, we're truly honored to have you all with us today. Please do join us in the next session. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Now, we prepare for the next session.
Sure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Gyanchanda sir, can you please check your audio and video?
Hello.
Yes, it's perfect.
Good morning to you all. Yeah.
Professor Muni,
morning.
Check your audio and video, sir. Muni sir.
Good morning.
Muni sir, could you please say something because we can't hear you? Ambassador Shiv Shankar Menon, sir, could you please check your audio and video?
Good to see you again.
Hello, good to see you, Shiv Shankar Menon. How are you?
Good, very good.
All right.
Can
Professor Raja Mohan, could you please check your